She was poor, homeless, and called useless by everyone in her village. They mocked her, insulted her, and threw her out like trash. But years later, she returned in a way no one expected. How did a girl with nothing build a mansion for an entire village? Sit back and find out as we dive into this powerful story. This is the story of how a poor orphan girl was rejected by her village, but returned to change their lives forever. It was a hot morning in a small Nigerian village. The sun was already burning bright, and the dust from the road covered everything. A young girl named Amarachi walked slowly with a heavy bucket of water on her head. She was 17 years old. Her clothes were old and faded. Her slippers were torn. But her eyes still had light in them. She had just finished fetching water from the village well. Her back hurt. Her feet hurt. But she kept walking. She lived with her aunt, Mama Titi, in a small mud house at the edge of the village. Her parents had died in a fire when she was only 10 years old. Since then, her aunt had taken her in, but not out of love, out of duty. And every single day, Mama Titi reminded her of that. As Amarachi walked into the compound, her aunt was sitting outside peeling yam. She looked up and frowned. "Amarachi," she shouted. "Why are you so slow? Are your legs made of stone?" Amarachi put the bucket down gently. "I'm sorry, Mama Titi. The well was crowded today." Mama Titi hissed. "Always excuses. You are useless, just like your father was useless. That's why he died and left you for me to suffer with." Amarachi said nothing. She had learned long ago that silence was better than arguing. She walked inside the house and sat down on the floor. There was no chair for her. There was no bed for her. Just a thin mat in the corner where she slept every night. She closed her eyes and whispered a prayer. "God, I know you see me. Please help me." That afternoon, Amarachi went to the village market to sell oranges. She carried a small basket on her head. The oranges were not even hers. They belonged to a woman in the village who gave her a few naira if she sold them. As she walked, children pointed at her and laughed. "Look, it's the dirty orphan," one boy said. "She smells like poverty," a girl added, covering her nose. Amarachi kept walking. Her heart was heavy, but she didn't cry. Not in public. Never in public. She had cried enough at night when no one was watching. She sold only 3 oranges that day. 3. The rest had started going bad. She knew Mama Titi would be angry. She knew tonight would be hard. But still, she walked home slowly, hoping for a miracle. On her way back, she saw something. An old man was sitting by the roadside. He looked weak. His eyes were covered with a white cloth. He was blind. His hand was stretched out, shaking. "Please," the man said softly. "I'm hungry. Anyone, please help me." People walked past him. Some looked at him and shook their heads. Others just ignored him completely. Amarachi stopped. She looked at the man. Then she looked at the small bread in her hand. It was the only thing she had eaten all day. Half a loaf of dry bread. She was hungry too. Very hungry. But something inside her said, "Give it to him." She knelt down beside the old man and placed the bread in his hand. "Here, sir," she said gently. "It's not much, but please eat." The old man turned his head toward her voice. He smiled. "Thank you, my daughter. God bless you." Amarachi stood up and walked away. She didn't know it yet, but that one act of kindness would change her life forever. Days passed. Amarachi's life got worse. Mama Titi was becoming more cruel. One evening, after Amarachi returned from working at a neighbor's farm, Mama Titi called her. "Amarachi, come here." Amarachi walked over, her body tired and covered in dust. "Yes, Mama Titi." Her aunt looked at her with cold eyes. "I can't do this anymore. You eat my food. You use my space. You bring me nothing but shame. Pack your things. You are leaving this house." Amarachi's heart stopped. "Mama Titi, please. Where will I go?" "I don't care," Mama Titi said. "Go and meet your dead parents. Maybe they will help you from the grave." Tears filled Amarachi's eyes. "Please, Mama. I'll work harder. I'll do anything. Just don't send me away." But Mama Titi turned her back. "Leave, now." That night, Amarachi packed her small bag. She had nothing. Just 2 old dresses, her mother's old wrapper, and a small Bible her father had given her before he died. She walked out into the dark night. The village was quiet. Dogs were barking in the distance. She didn't know where to go, so she walked to the only place she felt safe. The village church. The church was old and small. The door was always open. Amarachi went inside and sat on one of the wooden benches. She placed her bag beside her and looked up at the cross. "God," she whispered, "I don't understand why my life is like this, but I still trust you. Please don't leave me." She lay down on the bench and closed her eyes. That night she slept in the house of God. Alone. Homeless. But still holding on to hope. Weeks went by. Amarachi continued sleeping in the church. The pastor, an old man named Pastor John, noticed her but said nothing. He just watched her quietly. Every morning she would wake up, fold her wrapper neatly, and leave before people came for service. She would spend the day looking for small jobs, sweeping compounds, washing clothes, carrying firewood, anything to survive. But even in her pain, Amarachi stayed kind. She greeted everyone with a smile. She helped children cross the muddy roads. She shared her food even when she barely had any. People still mocked her. They still called her the useless orphan. But she never stopped being good. One day, while Amarachi was sitting near the village dump, she saw something. Old bottles, broken buckets, pieces of cloth, wires, things people had thrown away. She picked up a bottle and looked at it. Then an idea came to her mind. What if I could make something from this? She thought. She began collecting the materials. She took them back to the church and started working. She used the bottles to make small decorative lamps. She used the cloth to create colorful bags. She twisted the wires into beautiful shapes. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. And for the first time in a long while, Amarachi felt alive. She took her crafts to the market and displayed them on the ground. Most people walked past without looking, but one woman stopped. She was not from the village. She wore clean clothes and had a kind face. She picked up one of the lamps and smiled. "Did you make this?" she asked. Amarachi nodded. "Yes, Ma." The woman looked impressed. "This is beautiful. How much?" Amarachi hesitated. 50 naira, Ma." The woman smiled. "I'll take 5, and I'll pay you 100 naira each." Amarachi's eyes widened. "Ma?" "Yes," the woman said. "You have talent. Don't waste it." She paid Amarachi and took the lamps. Before she left, she gave Amarachi a small card. "My name is Mrs. Adebayo. I work with a charity that helps young people like you. If you're interested, come and see me." Amarachi held the card tightly. Her hands were shaking. "Thank you, Ma. Thank you so much." From that day, things began to change. Slowly. Mrs. Adebayo connected Amarachi with the charity organization. They gave her materials to work with. They taught her better skills. They even helped her sell her crafts online. Amarachi worked day and night. She prayed. She believed. And little by little, her business began to grow. People from the city started buying her work. Then people from other countries. Her name began to spread. 3 years passed. Amarachi was no longer the same girl. She had grown. She had learned. She had built something from nothing. She now had a small workshop in the city. She employed other young girls like her. Girls who had been rejected. Girls who had been called useless. And together, they created beautiful things. But Amarachi never forgot where she came from. She never forgot her village. She never forgot the pain. One bright Saturday morning, a white SUV drove into the village. People stopped what they were doing and stared. Cars like that didn't come to their village often. The door opened, and out stepped a young woman. She wore a beautiful blue dress. Her hair was neatly braided. She had a bright smile on her face. It was Amarachi, but no one recognized her at first. She walked slowly through the village. People whispered, "Who is that?" "She looks rich." "Is she from the government?" Then one old woman looked closely and gasped. "Wait, that's Amarachi, the orphan girl." The whispers grew louder. "Amarachi? The useless one? No, it can't be." But it was. Amarachi stopped in the middle of the village square. A crowd had gathered. She looked at their faces. Some looked shocked. Some looked ashamed. Some still looked at her with doubt. She took a deep breath and spoke. "Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amarachi. Some of you remember me. Some of you called me useless. Some of you laughed at me. Some of you threw me out." The crowd was silent. "I didn't come here to fight. I didn't come here for revenge. I came here to give back." She turned and pointed to a large piece of land at the edge of the village. "On that land I am building a house. A big house. Not for myself, but for this village." People looked confused. One man asked, "What do you mean?" Amarachi smiled. "I mean I am building a home for widows. For orphans. For anyone who has nowhere to go. So that no one in this village will ever sleep on the street again like I did." The crowd was speechless. Some people started crying. Others just stared in shock. Mama Titi, her aunt, pushed through the crowd. She looked older now, thinner. Her eyes were red. "Amarachi," she said, her voice shaking. "Is it really you?" Amarachi turned to her. For a moment there was silence. Then Amarachi walked closer. "Yes, Mama Titi, it's me." Mama Titi fell to her knees. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I treated you like trash. I called you useless. I threw you out. Please forgive me." Tears ran down her face. Amarachi knelt down and held her hands. "Mama Titi, I forgive you. I forgave you a long time ago." Mama Titi wept loudly. Other villagers began to cry too. They realized what they had done. They had rejected a blessing. They had mocked a gift. And now, that same girl was the one saving them. Over the next few months, the mansion was built. It was big. It was beautiful. It had rooms for widows, rooms for orphans, a kitchen, a school, a clinic, everything the village needed. But building that mansion was not easy. There were many challenges. Some of the village elders didn't trust Amarachi at first. They held meetings without her. They whispered among themselves, "Why is she really doing this?" One elder asked, "Maybe she wants to control us." Another said, "Rich people always have hidden plans." When Amarachi heard about their doubts, she didn't get angry. Instead, she invited all the elders to a meeting. She sat with them under the big tree in the village square. She looked each one of them in the eye. "I know you don't trust me," she said calmly. "I know some of you think I have bad intentions, but let me tell you something. When I was sleeping in the church, cold and hungry, I made a promise to God. I said, 'If you ever lift me up, I will come back and lift others.'" The elders listened quietly. One old man named Papa Emeka cleared his throat. "Amarachi, we treated you badly. We are ashamed. That's why we find it hard to believe you are doing this for free." Amarachi nodded. "I understand. But this is not about you accepting me. This is about the next Amarachi, the next orphan who will be born in this village, the next widow who will have nowhere to go. I'm building this for them." Tears filled Papa Emeka's eyes. He stood up slowly and bowed his head. "Forgive us, my daughter. We were blind, but now we see." One by one, the other elders stood and bowed too. From that day, they supported her fully. They helped clear the land. They brought their sons to work on the building. They brought their daughters to cook for the workers. The whole village came together. During the construction, something else beautiful happened. Amarachi met a young engineer named Chidi. He had been hired to supervise the building work. Chidi was humble, hard-working, and God-fearing. He didn't know Amarachi's full story at first. He just knew she was the one paying for everything. One afternoon, while checking the foundation, Chidi asked her, "Ma, if you don't mind me asking, why are you doing this?" Amarachi smiled. "Because someone believed in me when I had nothing." Chidi looked at her with respect. "That's rare. Most people forget where they came from." "I can never forget," Amarachi said softly. "My pain is my purpose." Chidi nodded. Over the weeks, they talked more. He learned about her life, about Mama Titi, about sleeping in the church, about the blind man. And the more he knew, the more he admired her. One evening, as the sun was setting, Chidi walked up to her. "Amarachi, I need to tell you something." She turned to him. "Yes." He took a deep breath. "I've met many women in my life. Rich women, educated women, beautiful women. But I've never met anyone like you. Your heart is pure. And if you allow me, I would like to walk this journey of life with you." Amarachi's heart skipped. She looked down, smiling shyly. "Chidi, I don't know what to say." Say yes," he said gently. "Let me be the man who stands beside the woman who stands for others." She looked up at him, and for the first time in many years, she felt something she thought she would never feel. She felt loved, not because of what she had, but because of who she was. "Yes, Chidi," she whispered. "Yes." The day it was completed, the whole village gathered. There was music, there was dancing, there was joy. Amarachi stood in front of the building and gave a speech. "They called me useless," she said, her voice strong. "But God called me chosen. They said I would never be anything, but God said I would be everything. I didn't build this house to show off. I built it to show love. Because even when you rejected me, God never did." The crowd clapped. They cheered. They cried. Then something happened. A man stepped out of the crowd. He was old. He had a walking stick. But his eyes were clear now. It was the blind man, the one Amarachi had given her bread to years ago. But he wasn't blind anymore. He smiled at her. "Amarachi," he said. "Do you remember me?" She looked closely and gasped. You're the man from the road." He nodded. "Yes, my name is Mr. Obi. I'm a philanthropist. I travel to poor villages to test the hearts of people. That day you gave me your last food. You didn't know who I was. You just gave because you had a good heart. And I told you those who mock you today will clap for you tomorrow." Amarachi's eyes filled with tears. "You were testing me?" He smiled. "And you passed. Not because you were rich, but because you were kind." He reached into his bag and brought out an envelope. "This is for you. A grant to expand your work, to help more villages, to lift more people." Amarachi took the envelope with shaking hands. She couldn't speak. She just cried. The village erupted in celebration. Children ran around laughing. Women danced. Men clapped. And in the middle of it all stood Amarachi, the girl they called useless, the girl who became unstoppable. As the sun began to set, the camera slowly pulled back. The new mansion stood tall. Children played in the yard. Widows sat under trees, smiling. Orphans ran around with hope in their eyes. And Amarachi stood at the center of it all, watching the village she once suffered in, now filled with life. She whispered softly, "Thank you, God. You turned my pain into purpose." But the story doesn't end there. 6 months after the mansion opened, something powerful began to happen. The children who lived there started going to school. The widows started small businesses. Women who used to beg for food were now selling vegetables at the market. Women who used to cry themselves to sleep were now singing in the morning. The whole village was changing. Amarachi didn't just give them a building. She gave them hope. She hired teachers to come and teach the children every evening. She brought in a nurse to check on the widows once a week. She organized skill training for the young girls, teaching them how to sew, how to make crafts, how to start their own businesses. She was building a community, not just a house. One day, a journalist from the city came to the village. She had heard about Amarachi's story and wanted to write about it. Her name was Grace. She sat down with Amarachi under the same tree where the elders had once doubted her. "Amarachi?" Grace asked, holding her notebook. "When you were homeless, sleeping in the church, did you ever imagine this day would come?" Amarachi shook her head slowly. "No, I just prayed to survive each day. I didn't dream this big because my reality was too painful." Grace wrote quickly. "What kept you going?" Amarachi looked up at the sky. My father's last words. Before he died in that fire, he held my hand and said, "Amarachi, never let this world kill your kindness." I didn't understand it then, but now I do. Kindness is the only thing that separates us from animals. Grace's eyes became wet. "And what would you say to people who are going through what you went through?" Amarachi looked directly at her. "I would say, your current situation is not your final destination. People will call you names. They will reject you. They will make you feel small. But if you hold on to God and hold on to kindness, your story will change. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it will change." The interview was published in a big newspaper. People from all over the country read it. Churches invited Amarachi to come and share her testimony. Schools invited her to speak to students, and every time she spoke, she said the same thing. I am not special. I am just a girl who refused to give up. Her words touched millions. Then one Sunday morning, something unexpected happened. Amarachi was at the mansion, distributing food to the widows, when a convoy of cars drove into the village. People ran out to see. The governor of the state had come. He stepped out of his car, surrounded by security men and cameras. He walked straight to Amarachi. "Are you Amarachi?" he asked. She nodded, confused. "Yes, sir." The governor smiled. "I read about you. I read about what you've done here, and I want to support you. The state government is giving you a grant of 10 million naira to expand this work to other villages." The crowd erupted in shouts of joy. Amarachi covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face. The governor continued, "We are also giving you an award, the state's most inspirational young leader award." Amarachi couldn't speak. She just cried. Chidi, standing beside her, held her hand tightly. "You deserve it," he whispered. The governor looked at the crowd. "This young woman is proof that greatness is not about where you start. It's about where you refuse to stop." Later that evening, after everyone had left, Amarachi sat alone in the church where she used to sleep. She ran her hand along the wooden bench. She remembered the cold nights, the hunger, the tears. She remembered praying with nothing but faith. And now, she sat there as a woman of influence, a woman of impact, a woman of purpose. She knelt down on the floor and prayed. "God, I don't know why you chose me, but I promise I will never waste this opportunity. I will keep lifting others until my last breath." As she stood up to leave, Pastor John, the old pastor who had watched over her silently all those years ago, walked in. "Amarachi," he called softly. She turned. "Pastor John." He smiled. "I always knew God had a plan for you. Even when you slept here, hungry and broken, I saw something in your eyes. I saw fire. I saw faith." Amarachi hugged him tightly. "Thank you for not chasing me away. Thank you for letting me stay." Pastor John pulled back and looked at her. "You were never a burden, my daughter. You were a seed. And now, look at the harvest." They both stood there, in the quiet church, grateful for the journey. Outside, the village was alive with laughter and music. Inside, two hearts were full of thanksgiving. And in that moment, Amarachi realized something powerful. She had not just built a mansion. She had rebuilt herself. And in rebuilding herself, she had rebuilt an entire community. Dear friends, this story teaches us something very deep. Never look down on anyone. That girl you see struggling today might be the woman changing the world tomorrow. Just like Amarachi, many people are not useless. They just need a little help and someone to believe in them. Also, kindness is never wasted. That small act of love you show today might be the seed of a miracle tomorrow. Amarachi gave her last bread, and God gave her a mansion. So tell me, what did you learn from this story? Please drop your thoughts in the comments section. I would really love to read from you. You might even help someone else with your words. There's another very interesting story coming up in just a few days. So please subscribe to my channel and turn on your notification bell, so you'll be the first to know when I upload it. If you enjoyed this story, please hit the like button and share it with your friends and loved ones. Thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate you.